In the latest Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind trailer, we see a silver-eyed young Xehanort discussing with the Master of Masters at the Keyblade Graveyard that he finds a black coat that wards off darkness useful. The Master of Masters asks Xehanort how did his world tour go, and Xehanort only responds to this by saying that he learned in a terrible way just how necessary he is. Also, in the Kingdom Hearts 3 Secret Reports, a Keyblade trainee Xehanort stated that part of his Marker Master exam is to tour the worlds of the Age of Fairy Tales. What could this world tour be? What is the Master doing in the Keyblade Graveyard instead of in Shibuya where Sora is? When does the conversation take place? I will attempt to answer these questions and connect different plot points in my Kingdom Hearts 4 World Tour Theory. So first off, we know that thanks to the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind trailer, we know that the Master and Xehanort are working together for some reason, and that the Master is in his own world line, or at least returned from wherever he disappeared to at the beginning of back cover. We also are apparently going to get some revelation as to Luxord's true identity and his relation to Union Cross, but that isn't really important to this theory, so we're going to put a pin in that for now. That will be discussed in another theory video. So I feel like in order to best make sense of this theory, we need to quickly gloss over Xehanort's life. He was a young man living on Destiny Islands when he felt like there was more to his world. At the same time, he was approached by his older self and given the power to time travel in order to collect vessels for his older self's biggest plan. After doing what he does in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance and Kingdom Hearts 3, he goes back to his own time and lives out his life with the events now etched in his heart. He soon finds a way to leave Destiny Islands and makes his way to Scala ad Caelum, and becomes a Keyblade apprentice with Ericus. Xehanort was warned before about the world order and how the lanes between has dark influences, and heard about the legends of the Keyblade War. Xehanort's constantly growing curiosity could not be quenched so easily, and as such, he ventures into other worlds behind his master's back, and even removes his armor while in the lanes between, as he feels like if he masters the darkness, there will be no need for armor. He does exactly that. Soon after he becomes a Keyblade Master alongside Ericus and is given the no-name Keyblade, he chooses the Seeker's life and wishes to learn more / recreate the Keyblade War to satiate his curiosity. And then the rest of the games follow suit. When thinking about Xehanort's life and watching through the different cutscenes throughout the different games, there are a few red flags that I definitely need to address in different points in this video, which helps tie into the theory. Before I state those, let me just state that the main point and the crux of this theory is that Xehanort is both intentionally and unintentionally being used by the Master of Masters and is essentially his pawn. I say intentionally because we see that Master Xehanort and his darkness are clearly motivated by their own goals and desires and don't seem to take anyone else into account. I also say intentionally because we see a version of Xehanort conversing with the Master of Masters, making it clear that the Master of Masters has to at least fill in Xehanort a bit of what he wants, or at least Xehanort knows that the Master of Masters is using him. Now, first thing I want to point out is Xehanort's eye color. As we all should know, Xehanort's eye color is mainly amber or yellow. However, in the intro to Kingdom Hearts 3, as well as some different points in the story depicting a younger Xehanort playing chess, his eyes were silver. When people first started talking about this, I really didn't give it too much attention because I just assumed that Xehanort as a young boy had silver eyes and they just changed colors as he got older. That is an actual thing in real life. But after the Remind trailer, seeing a Xehanort who seems to be the same age as the young Xehanort we fight in Kingdom Hearts 3 has silver eyes without a hint of amber helped me realize something. Xehanort's eyes are like indicators. They are indicators of what type of influence he has. If Xehanort has amber eyes, he is his regular Seeker of Darkness self. If he has silver eyes, he is being influenced by the Master of Masters. Frankly, it isn't too far-fetched. You guys do remember Terra Xehanort and Apprentice Xehanort, right? When Xehanort first possessed Terra, his eyes were still amber, but after losing to Aqua and getting amnesia, his eyes turned brown. What? Terra's eyes were blue and Xehanort's eyes were amber or yellow. The mixture of those colors wouldn't lead to brown, it would have led to a more greener color. So if Xehanort has brown eyes, then he isn't a seeker, nor is he the Master's pawn. He's just an amnesiac version of himself, not guided or influenced by anything or anyone, mostly. But back on the silver eyes thing, why do I say this? Because there's one cutscene that really helped me reach this conclusion. This cutscene here in Dream Drop Distance. We know that young Xehanort tells Riku that he is Xehanort from the most distant path. And he tells Sora in this scene that when he returns to his own time, he forgets his experiences and he will start to walk down his appointed path. Which, as young Xehanort said,
"My appointed path is now etched in my heart, which will first lead me to seek the outside world."
Meaning this Xehanort, the same one we see here, has not left the outside world yet and begun Keyblade training. This was the first and probably biggest red flag for me. If this Xehanort is the version from the most distant past and is the one who hasn't left the outside world yet, then why is this young Xehanort we see in the Kingdom Hearts 3 intro and throughout Kingdom Hearts 3 so much younger looking? He's even shorter, and apparently Benjamin Diskin's notes for playing this version of Xehanort was to sound more kid-like, further emphasizing that this Xehanort is younger than the young Xehanort we fight. So, who is this younger Xehanort? I think this is the original Xehanort. What I mean is that this is the Xehanort who didn't receive any time travel powers from Ansem or had any experience facing Sora or the others and working with his other selves. This is the first Xehanort, the one who found his own way off Destiny Islands. Now I know something just clicked in at least some of your guys' heads, and you guys are probably thinking, hold on Noir, if this Xehanort was able to make it off of the islands, then why is young Xehanort, who hasn't left Destiny Islands yet, so much older? And my answer to that question would be, look at the Master of Masters. I think the Master of Masters more than likely orchestrated things to have a certain someone end up in Shibuya, helped out Xehanort in exchange for his services and cooperation, and as such, he put some influence over Xehanort to obey him. Now I know something else just clicked in some of you guys' heads, and you may be thinking, hold on again Noir, if the Master of Masters helped Xehanort, then why didn't we see this before or have gotten any hints about that happening, as when we see young Xehanort on Destiny Islands, we don't see the Master anywhere. And to that I say, good question, but look at the Book of Prophecies. You may be thinking, what does the Book of Prophecies have to do with this? And the Book of Prophecies actually has everything to do with this. It is my belief that the result or price of having the ability to see into the future and be able to write the Book of Prophecies and transcribe the future, the Master of Masters has lost his ability to directly affect the future or any other points in time. What I mean is that the Master of Masters, even if he were to visit different points in time, he could never have any direct involvement with how things play out. As such, he needs to convince other people and influence them to affect time on his behalf. Think about it. We may not know his true goals, but we know that for sure if he wanted to ignite a Keyblade war and have people fall to darkness, there were definitely easier, less convoluted options to do that. But maybe he didn't use easier options because the convoluted one was the only one that he could actually use to affect points in time. Maybe that's why the Master disappeared in back cover, either by the universe itself forcefully doing this or by the Master's own call. He disappears to a point in time where most people who would have memories of him are gone. Also, think about it. We may not know every word that's in the Book of Prophecies, but from what we have seen, the Master isn't mentioned once, I believe. And he's the one who wrote it! Going back to Xehanort, the Master is clearly using him in order to affect points in time in the present. Now, before I get ahead of myself, let me just address another thing that probably clicked in other people's heads about this theory. Well, what about this young Xehanort? What's his story after he loses to Sora in Kingdom Hearts 3 and starts to live out his life? And to that I say, Xehanort subconsciously finds his way to leave and start Keyblade training without the assistance of the Master, because remember, the Master cannot directly influence any points in time. So, like I said, he struck a deal with Xehanort, he strikes a deal with him. Xehanort obeys the Master and fills out his wishes, and in exchange, the Master of Masters gets him off the islands to grant him power. However, this is only for the original version. Maybe that's why Xehanort felt so strongly about recruiting Riku into his darknesses, and why Ansem was borderline obsessed with him. Because Riku, just like Xehanort, made a deal to get off the islands and have power in exchange for loyalty. Xehanort, with the Master of Masters' help, finds himself in Scala at Kylum, where he trains to become a Keyblade Master alongside Ericus. He makes sure Xehanort knows enough about the Gazing Eye, the book, and the Keyblade War in order to spark his curiosity that will lead Xehanort to personally desire a second war, which was just what the Master wanted. The Master definitely needs Xehanort. Now, I'm not so sure if this cutscene happens before Xehanort's Mark of Mastery exam or during/after Kingdom Hearts 3. But if this is before Xehanort's Mark of Mastery exam, then the Master simply needed Xehanort to take a world tour, and not only the state of the worlds of Fairy Tales, but also look ahead to see where his plan is headed in terms of Shibuya. Xehanort's line saying because of the world tour he sees in an awful way just how necessary he is in the grand scheme of things, it kind of makes sense because Xehanort now realizes where the Master is headed with his plans and how necessary he is for doing that, but the awful way part of what he says means that he knows what terrible things he's going to have to do in order to push the Master's plan forward. And shortly after, he and the Master would at least briefly sever their connection so that Xehanort's actions and desires would seem like it came completely from him. If this is during or after Kingdom Hearts 3, then the Master of Masters probably sent Xehanort on a world tour to visit Shibuya and kind of get things ready for Sora's arrival, and again, Xehanort will see the level of importance. Now, this Xehanort is definitely a Xehanort who had not been exposed to the darkness and the lanes between yet, as Xehanort remarks how the black coats wards off darkness. Now of course, since we see the Master of Masters out and about in the real world post-back cover, we can infer that the Master isn't in Shibuya against his will, but is there by choice. Now, this also begs the question, does Luxu know that he has returned? No, he doesn't, because if he did, Luxu wouldn't have stated that with the arrival of the foretellers, hopefully the Master will return. Now of course the question arises, why is the Master hiding himself from Luxu? And it's because he doesn't want to screw up so soon the future events by making his presence known. Also, if the Master of Masters was near Luxu, he would have been close to the Gazing Eye, allowing the Master who wrote the book to document his own presence in the future, but as I have stated, the Master of Masters cannot directly affect the book. Now, like I said, the Master of Masters is in Shibuya because of his own choice and is more than likely there because of one person, Sora. The Master of Masters knows that Sora will be in Shibuya thanks to Xehanort. Heck, maybe that's why young Xehanort said,
"Your time in this world is..."
because he also subconsciously knows what's going to happen to Sora because of his connection to his original self. Xehanort and the Master's connection could also help with the apparent symbolism that exists in the Kingdom Hearts 3 opening. Remember, it is meant to represent Sora's state of mind after dying. So maybe when we see Xehanort looking at a lone Sora chess piece, it is like he's playing pawns in a certain way in order to get Sora to die in order for him to be in Shibuya, which is exactly what the Master wants for him. Now, where does this lead to the future of Kingdom Hearts? I think this will perfectly increase the already existing tension that Sora needs to be saved, as now it isn't just that Sora needs to be saved from death and Shibuya, but he also needs to be saved by the Master and whatever he is scheming. Maybe the Master will try to tempt Sora into doing something that he shouldn't do, only to just barely be saved by Riku and or Yozora. Yozora would first inform Riku that someone dressed like him is in serious trouble. Riku and Yuzora would team up to find Sora and protect him from the Master. Now, a question I thought while making this video is, does this mean that Xehanort will still be involved even a little after his death in Kingdom Hearts 3? At first, I thought yes, because Nomura mentioned that he did have another Kingdom Hearts game in mind after Kingdom Hearts 3, which would have helped explain Xehanort's past, but as that would mean that the last game in the Xehanort saga wouldn't have been Kingdom Hearts 3, he scrapped it. And while I think at least part of Remind is going to involve itself in that plot point, Xehanort probably isn't going to be necessarily involved after Kingdom Hearts 3, just subtly at the most. With all this said, that's going to do it for me, you guys. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment below, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys rate, comment, and subscribe. This was a very, very hard theory to make. I had pages of notes and just thinking about it for days. It was tough to push this one out. So I seriously hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you guys rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Twitter and my Twitch. Check out my Discord, link in the comments and description below. This has been Noir Lilbomber, and I'm out.